So, car number 4 into the pits now. In second place, just after Mazda number 1 pitted, John Smales.
Yeah, the Porsche coming in now, Will, and they said it had a flat tyre, but then all the tyre changes were waved away, and they're electing to put fuel in it only. So the Porsche team really on the ragged edge at the moment of their own wits, because they've been knocked about a bit by Mazda. They didn't expect the Mazda pit top to be as quick as it was. The Porsche out loses 32.94 seconds. That's a long amount of time to lose.
Yeah, that was a long stop, and it's the first time in the race now, actually, after 10 and 3/4 hours of racing, that we've actually got one of the first 4 cars off the same lap. But have a look at this dice. This is Class A.
And a change of leader of this class in just the last half lap too. We've seen the car 34 overtake car 56 in just the last half lap, and this is really on this race.
It sure is. 55 and even further back, John Allen on 4.
There's your race leader, Scott Mitchell, momentarily as we look through the heat haze coming up Mountain Straight and look back about 9 to 10 seconds to see these bikes maybe just pouring the front wheel in the air as they come up over the top, just a little bit, yeah. Certainly on 89, on Etherington's bike, its front wheel was certainly getting air.
And you can see the bikes behind just going off the battle a little bit.
By Mike Dowson on the Yamaha 1000 back in 1988 in the last of the RI 500 races. They're all here. These bikes lapping about 4 to 5 seconds slower, which is about what you'd expect given the fact that they haven't had much miles at Bathurst in the last few years. And it is such a daunting circuit, perhaps one of the most daunting circuits in world motorcycle racing.
The problem for the bikes this weekend was that there was next weekend, after a superbike race at Phillip Island last weekend, next weekend there's another Australian Championship round at Honolulu circuit in Western Australia. So the Green Tree has gone there.
Hanging on, but he can hear them behind him. He hasn't looked behind him. There are no rear view mirrors on these bikes, of course. And as he goes across McPhillamy Park and heading for Skyline, whoopah! Gotcha!
But it's a matter of find your own way and make your own way around. The bike gets...
There's Green Tree gained the advantage.
Cliff just getting back onto them a little bit in 75.
Very much so. And Stroud not making a great deal of advantage at all on Green Tree.
Trouble and a bit of a high sider, and the air fence hopefully doing the job there. You saw how it happened.
That's Craig Sutcliffe.
Locked up and got a little bit offline. He got back to this bunch.
High side through there is not a thing to have happen.
Well, he just locked up a tad.
Here
That
it is.
threw
Here.
him offline. Have a look.
Right behind. Here he is, just a little bit offline, locking
Gone
up the back end.
sideways. Oh dear. And then it's thrown him over the... Didn't go very high up.
Fortunately, the bike moved away from him right at the last moment, so the bike didn't follow him into the fence, and that's quite a critical situation because, of course, a lot of mass in that motorcycle moving at high speed, and the last thing you want to do is to be crushed between it and the fence.
See the way the air fence there is at an angle, so at the join.
Riders up,
brake.
Butte, riders up. That's sensational.
Done its job.
So it really did its job. The struggle you saw was the rider trying to find his way out of the air fencing. So again, this sensational Australian invention has done its job. Isn't that wonderful?
Like 15 on lap 15. 2 corners remaining, now 1. Well done,
Jubilation.
Scott Mitchell. Don't muck up on the left hand to get both hands on the bars and the right cog selected as he heads to the finishing line. Scott Mitchell on bike number 15, victorious in the Castrol Australian Solo TT at Mount Panorama, Bathurst. Heat 2.
Here's
as the
second
battle
place.
now goes on for second place between Etherington and Andrew Stroud, and it's Etherington to take the honours as he goes across the line about 15.5 seconds in arrears to Scott Mitchell. Stroud right on him for third place.
Scott, congratulations. Your name goes down in history with some of the greats of Australian motorcycle racing. How do you feel?
Well, I feel really great. The Yamaha Australia bike went, performed like $1 million, and yeah, Dunlop tyres on it. It was sticking on the road like you wouldn't believe. We got a bad start and just worked our way through the field and had a good ride.
Congratulations, Scott Mitchell, and thanks for entertaining us with skills and daring like that. This is the class, the race leader on a very busy mission, and a hell of a lot still to happen here at Mount Panorama in the next 66 minutes. This is the situation in the overall situation, and you can see they're spreading just a tad, but everybody with a pit stop to come.
Welcome back to Mount Panorama at Bathurst for the closing stages. In fact, almost exactly 1 hour to go in the 12-hour James Hardy endurance race here at Mount Panorama Bathurst. And there is car number 4, the Porsche 968, and I have one of its drivers sitting right next to me, Brett Peters. How are you?
Good, Tim, thanks.
What a great race this has been.
Fantastic race, absolutely fantastic.
Brilliant, isn't it? I think we've got, or trying to get Peter Fitzgerald to talk to us on his car cam. We'll see if we can get... Peter, can you hear us?
Yeah, sure.
Mate, you had Brett a bit concerned with that last pit stop. Please explain.
I beg your pardon?
You had Brett concerned with that last pit stop of yours. Explain yourself.
Yeah, what happened was going over McPhillippi Park, one of the Suzuki's decided that he'd let me take him on the outside instead of the race line and push me wide into marbles. And all of a sudden I got a bad vibration in the car and it was skidding all over the road. And I didn't know whether I picked up a flat tyre or not. So I had to come in case, you know, if I went past the pits and all of a sudden, you know, I got a flat, I wouldn't have got back. So we had to come in. We were planning to do a splash of fuel anyhow, but unfortunately, it's sort of bugging the plans a bit.
Fitzy, it's Brett here. Does that mean that you won't have to stop again, though, for fuel?
No, mate, we should get through to the end. It's just that I'm carrying more fuel than I wanted. And I was really trying to wring the neck out of this thing to catch the bloody Mazdas.
Well, they've got to stop again. The only thing we're not sure of is whether they're going to need brakes or not.
Well, I hope they do need them. I think our other car's in front of me now. I think I'm lying third, aren't I?
Yeah, that's right.
Yep.
That's right. Car feel good?
The car feels great, you know, like this little German car just goes all day. We've wrung its neck and I'm really giving it buggery. I think I just got a 35 a few laps back there, and goes to show you at the end of the day just how quick this thing is. And the good news are just unbelievable.
Yeah, we noticed you've been flinging around a bit. You and Smithy seem to have been trying pretty hard.
Yeah, you're right, mate.
Everything else going okay?
Yeah, the only thing I'm having trouble thinking of something comical to say.
Mate, it's not a terribly funny situation at this point in time, I wouldn't have thought, so we forgive you.
Thank you.
Getting down to the serious end of business.
Yeah, I think we might leave Peter there. I think he's got a lot more on his mind than talking to us, and it's nice of him to do it with less than an hour to go in the race. So, Brett, I guess, as he says, it's a matter now of all systems go and try and catch that number 7 Mazda.
I think it's going to be an hour sprint race from here, Tim, actually.
Yeah.
It's going to be, all those 3 or the top 4 guys will just go as hard as they can for the next hour.
Has it surprised you that after 11 hours now, just on 11 hours, you've got 4 cars all on the same lap? And it's quite extraordinary.
Well, yeah, based on Sandown's results, we're not surprised. We thought this was going to happen. The Mazdas had been here last year. They knew what they were up against. We had a good run at Sandown, and the cars are very, very even. And when you take everything into consideration, we weren't surprised that this was going to happen.
Everyone thought they might have a problem with their brakes, but it hasn't happened.
Well, they've been able to practice their pit stops. Those guys are very professional in that area, and they've got the brake changes down very quickly. And whilst we thought we might get through on 1 pad change, more so we could drive the cars harder, we've done 2 pads changes, and literally all the 6 drivers in our team have driven flat out all day.
Yeah, you sure have. And there's car number 4 going flat out as we speak. And I have to tell you, that beautiful little German car is a hell of a sight going flat out around this mountain.
Yeah, it's been great. I'm sure that the whole team have been absolutely thrilled. It's been a fantastic team effort, really, from when it started right up until right through to tonight. It's been a great performance.
All right, thank you for joining us. Thanks, Brett Peters. All the best for the last 55 minutes or so.
Great.
And Will Hagan, as we watch number 4 rocket around the mountain now, it's back to you.
Well, it's a busy old scene here. They've covered 1,491 kilometres after those 11 hours, which we've just passed, 240 laps. Looked like a new race record distance, another 7 laps over what was covered last year, 254. Bring the distance up to more than 1,600 kilometres. But that remains to be seen as we look at Keith Carling's car, the Nissan Skyline GTR car number 3, an exquisite motor car, the only car in the race with rear wheel steer. Keith Carling, how does that work? Because the one that we've seen in Group A racing has that rear wheel steering taken out of it, the 4-wheel steering, but you, being in a race for standard cars, must run it. How well does it work for you? Keith Carling, it's Will. Well, if we did have him, we would have heard something there, because he had to hook another gear. He was taken offline and very nearly taken off, so to speak, by one of the little Suzukis. But
it's performed very well, hasn't it? Everybody said it would be smouldering its brakes and it wouldn't last the distance, and it's still there and still going strongly.
It's been 100% reliable, but unfortunately just hasn't quite had the pace. The team had to miss Sandown due to non-availability of some engine parts, so they had to put it behind in preparing for this race. So quite sensibly, they've decided to be a bit conservative in their approach.
Yes, and it may be that they've been too conservative. In a car that's got the most power of any of in the race, 205 kilowatts without, before you take off the standard muffler and catalytic converter, but it weighs 1,530 kilos, but still comes in 4th in power to weight ratio out of the 27 models. Keith Carling, it's Will Hagan, can you hear me?
Yeah, sure can, Will.
I was just wondering, Keith, how the rear wheel steering works in that car. In Group A they did not use it, but for here you must use it, of course, because it's a standard feature.
Yeah, it's a little bit different to drive, Will, but once you get used to it, it's not too bad.
And how about everything else, the 4-wheel drive and the twin turbos and all the sophistication, the anti-lock brakes that's built into that car?
Well, the car's going like a clock, it really is. The 4-wheel drive is the beauty of it, because and just gets its power down to the ground incredibly well. And up out of the cutting and out of any of the corners, the thing is just fantastic.
Do you think you perhaps haven't used it hard enough in the light that you're in 6th place now and you're 13 laps down on the race leaders, and in a sense it's gone like clockwork? Could you have run a little bit harder with a little bit more practice?
Well, of course, hindsight's a wondrous thing, Will, but I guess so. We didn't go to Sandown. We opted to do some more testing at Eastern Creek and Lakeside, and I guess this is where it's caught up with us. In testing, you really don't get to do the endurance sort of work that we do here at Bathurst, and if we'd been to Sandown, I guess we would have had a lot more information to deal with, and we could have done it a lot better.
Are you going to keep racing it, Keith?
Mate, we're going to keep wringing its neck, and the thing is going to go through to the end. There's no problems at all. It really is a fantastic motor car. And, Will, I'd just like to say that we still haven't changed the brake pads, so the Achilles heel has certainly got no problems at all. And I think we're only on our 3rd set of tyres, so I don't know what else we can do.
Well, it's a long way removed from when you came here for the press day a couple of months ago and you ran out of brakes in 6 laps and went catapulting through one of the sand traps on Conrod Straight.
Yeah, well, they did throw a set of sand tyres in for me, but fortunately we haven't had to use them this weekend yet. But no, these Falcon tyres are just unbelievable. They keep going and going, and we changed the set a little while ago, and I got a message on the radio to say that we didn't even have to change them, so I don't know. We'll just keep going and we'll keep wringing its neck.
Well, it's a beaut car. I love it, and I'm glad it's out there. When I asked earlier if you're going to keep racing it, I didn't mean so much for the next hour as in other races. But, Keith, we must go. The lead Mazda's into the pits, down to the pits with John Smales.
And Gary Walden's lead Mazda has been giving the Mazda team heart attacks because the radio's out in the car and they've not been able to call it in for its final fuel stop. They've been concerned that because Walden wasn't acknowledging them as they signalled frantically from the pit counter, that Walden might stay out there until the car ran out of fuel. That's not been the case. He's 1 minute and 26 seconds in front of John Smith's Porsche, and he's gone after a splash of fuel in 23.55 seconds. He leads the James Hardy 12-hour going into the last hour.
And indeed, with just 53 minutes remaining, this is the situation outright at Mount Panorama. I reckon last year's race was the best enduro I'd seen on the mountain. This year's race is surpassing it. And the next 53 minutes will be absolutely enthralling. One of the remarkable efforts by the TAFE crew over this race week has been the restitution of about 7 motor cars, and one of them was John Burke Alan Grice's Toyota Supra. He'd in fact had a higher speed collision than did Wayne Gardner. This was doing about 220 kilometres an hour on Conrod Straight, and a Falcon selected the wrong gear, locked up its engine, spun in front of it, and they collected it in a big way. But look at the job that's been done all down the right-hand side there. That is panel beating done in a paddock, if you like. There's a shed up the back there. But by these TAFE apprentices, a sensational job. The car's been running very well. It qualified 5th fastest. It qualified...
It nearly went into the wall again. A nice big moment there from John Burke in car 15. They've really had a wretched weekend with this car. It was only finished at 2:30 this morning. The crew have not had any sleep for 2 days. The sign writing on the car was still very wet this morning. It ran quite strong for about the first 45 minutes of the race, staying in touch with the top 10, but it slipped away throughout the race with the various problems.
Qualified 8th fastest. In fact, part of this TAFE business, Craig, is interesting because the police had organised for the NSX Honda that they knew wouldn't be ready. That actually had a run around late yesterday. It still had some sign writing and so on done through last night, but it did have a discretionary lap late yesterday. But the NSX, they knew, had no chance to do a lap before the race actually started. So Bathurst police had organised for an escort to take the NSX out to the airport and to do some high-speed runs out there. And to come back out to the track, no matter what hour of the day or night it occurred. But as it turned out, they didn't even have time for that.
Alan Grice was doing a 2:39 in this car earlier this afternoon, which was quicker actually than their fastest time in practice. But since then, they've had a gearbox gasket go, and they've had a master cylinder seize up in the brake. So that's why the car is so well back in the field.
One of 7 cars to lead the race last year, but let's have a look at car 7, the car that's leading the race this year. Gary Walden, partnered superbly by Alan Jones in lieu of John Bowe. John, nice to have you with us.
Thank you.
Doing a great job in Ken Douglas, the situation.
Just looking at the stopwatch at the moment, after the last pit stop by Gary Walden in the RX-7, his lead over John Smith in the Porsche 968 is now 51.7 seconds. Of course, John Smith has to make one more stop before the finish. Gary Walden doesn't. Peter Fitzgerald in third place, who's another 40 seconds further back, also doesn't need to make an extra stop. So it's going to come down to whether Peter Fitzgerald can catch up to Gary Walden, whether Gary Walden can keep going. And here we have John Smith in the Porsche number 5 at the moment, the Quell-sponsored car, just going up into the cutting.
John's done a tremendous job today, but I think basically what's happened is the Mazda's broken their back. The number 7 Mazda with Alan Jones and Gary Walden really has run like clockwork all day. That the fact that they got past 1 hour to go before they had to stop for fuel really was in their favour, and now they're striking home to the finish.
Some fine judgment there, but this is the situation. Outright in this enthralling third James Hardy 12-hour at Mount Panorama Bathurst. There's the top 5. Mazda and Porsche dominating with the NSX Honda in there. Then Keith Carling's Nissan Skyline GTR heading the next lot with some family car representation, and very worthy too. And then look at the variety we get into by the time we go down to the 15th place.
James Hardy Industries, in association with Palmer Tube Mills, Bridgestone, that's confidence, Castrol Liquid Engineering, Telecom Mobile Net, Australia's own, Windsor Smith Boots, and BP Visco, hope you are enjoying the James Hardy 12-hour.
Welcome back to Mount Panorama at Bathurst. Last 40 minutes of the James Hardy 12-hour, and the race has been just superb. You heard Will Hagan talking to Keith in car number 3, the Nissan GTR, and I've got Graham Nielsen sitting next to me, who in about 2 minutes from now will jump back in the car for the last half an hour or so.
That's right.
You happy the way it's
Great.
gone?
Yep.
Yeah.
We had a plan. We devised it yesterday, and we followed it, and the plan's working.
Largely unraced motor car, so the more you race it, the better it's going to get.
We had a lot of trouble getting the correct parts for the car so that we could go to Sandown. We missed Sandown. We didn't do any testing. We've been at home working flat out, and the car's held together until now. And please God, it'll hang in there till the end.
If you finish in number 6 where you are now, that make you happy?
Yeah.
Yeah?
Yeah. Anyone that finishes after 12 hours has got to be happy.
Yeah.
But my sponsor, Falcon Tyres, have been absolutely fantastic. Last year we came 6th in a Commodore. If we come 6th this year, I'm sure that'll be good. We'd like to have come first, but
maybe next year.
Let's hope so.
All right, yeah. Graham, I'll let you go and get back in the car.
Okay,
and
thanks
all the
very
very
much.
best for the last half an hour.
Thanks very much.
Graham Nielsen is just about to jump back into the Nissan GTR. Just stay there for a sec, Graham, as we see Juan Manuel Fangio II's MR2. Will Hagan, it's over to you.
And in 8th place it is at this stage, and it's pulled out a very nice lead too over rivals and challengers, because 2nd place in the sports car class S is 4 laps behind. That's car number 55. Stephen Shedden, Scott Bargwanner and Jason Bargwanner, and of course another MR2. But Juan Fangio, it's Will Hagan again. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear very good.
Everything going well now? The car not affected by that bump?
Everything going very good. I'm very impressed with the car. The car is exactly the same, like look like the beginning of the race.
So are you settling into a steady pace to the finish, or have you any ambitions to try and improve your place?
Well, right now I think the best is to keep a good pace, and whatever you finish at the end of the race, you finish. I mean, you need to be consistent, and that's the best you can do, really.
Juan, you've got a big program in front of you this year. What's immediately in front of you in other racing?
I didn't understand the last thing you said.
What other racing will you be doing this year after this one?
Well, I'm flying to Atlanta. I will be one day at home, and then I have a race in Atlanta with the GTP car. From Atlanta, I will go immediately to Talladega to race the IROC series on the oval. And from Talladega, I will go to Paul Ricard for testing.
All right.
And from Paul Ricard to Le Mans for Le Mans 24 hours. So
Juan, we must go because we've got one of the leading cars in the pits. Thank you, and we'll get back to you later. Here's car 5, John Smales.
51 seconds is John Smith trailing the leading Mazda. He's now in the pits for his last splash of fuel, and only a splash of fuel it will be, and then all the skill that John Smith can muster to try and pull back that 51-second gap, plus whatever this fuel tank takes. And it's gone in 19.45 seconds, which gives Smithy about 1 minute and 5 seconds to pull back in round about 45 minutes. Can he do it, Will?
Soldiering along is the Holden Commodore V8 of Peter Brock and Tony Scott, car number 6. Peter Brock in the car at the moment, and I'm not sure what position he's in because the board is showing all the turbo class, but he's probably in 10th place outright and leader certainly in Class D. Been a nice comeback by Brock and by Tony Scott, and there it is, 227 laps completed, but from that tremendously close dice for the leading 4, Peter Brock on 227 laps is in 10th place, where the leaders have covered 248, so they're 21 ahead. So there's a massive distance, and indeed Brock is still behind that 6-cylinder Falcon, number 25, that running in Class C, along with the Porsches, is not leading it, but is doing a tremendous job and is 4 laps ahead of this V8 engine car.
It's a bit of a pity that the Yorton brothers, which are running that 6-cylinder Falcon, which are not, in fact, they're only running 4th in their class, as Will just mentioned, but certainly deserve some recognition for the work that they've done. Haven't made a mistake all day, running in 7th place for about the last 6 or 7 hours, and ahead of the V8 Commodore, so certainly a meritorious performance.
Ken, I had the pleasure to drive an XR6 several weeks ago, and I was very impressed by it. Compared to the Falcon of the late 80s, it's a tremendous car. It handles really well. It actually drives like a European car.
There goes the Dogbone Honda past it, the NSX. There we are, pulling away. I tell you, if the clutch had the problems that it was alleged to have, well then it's been a remarkable effort the way that car's hung on. It's 9 laps behind the 4th place Mazda car number 1, and it's remained, in fact increased its lead over Keith Carling's apparently healthy Nissan Skyline GTR car number 3 that's 6th, out to a 3-lap margin. So it's been a remarkable effort by the NSX.
Well, Wayne, they didn't used to use clutches on motorbikes, I'm sure, so he's just applied the same sort of technique to this.
Different gearboxes, John.
Yeah, probably.
New sponsor to Motorsport 2, Brisbane's Castle Hill Estate in the Peter Brock Commodore. In fact, this car that you're watching now was previously the personal transport of Castle Hill director Phil Richards, complete with 15,000 kilometres on the clock. So they'll probably put the plates on it and drive it back to Brisbane after the event.
Put it on the front row.
I wonder if we'll want it back after the race, though.
Well, that's the situation with Peter Brock, leading Class D and 10th outright. But let's have a look at the situation through all the classes here in the James Hardy 12-hour. Starting firstly with Class A, the Brame Draper Suzuki Swift heads the Corolla, heads another Corolla, then a brace of Suzukis make up the top 5. So 3 Suzukis, 2 Corollas. In Class B, it's Nissan Pulsar dominating, Ford Laser TX3, Mazda Estina, and then the Citroën BX16 pulling up 5th place. Remarkable considering its problems. Porsche 968 thrown in along with Honda NSX against Ford Falcon XR6 and SS, so that's a pretty tough order for the people with those family sedans. In Class D, there are only 3 cars, and that's the way they lie at this stage. A Holden sandwich with a Falcon filling, and in Class S, it's MR2s. With the Nissan NX, I said there was only a CRX. There is a lone Nissan NX2 that's come up to 5th place ahead of that Honda CRX. And in the turbo class, the ones that are dominating outright, the Mazda RX-7s, the Nissan Skyline GTR that's in 6th place overall, and then some of those little cheaper 4-wheel drive turbo cars, Mitsubishi Lancer GSR and the TX3. Henry Draper, it's Will Hagan. Can you hear me in car 56?
I can only hear you very faintly.
Well, I'll speak up and try and be very clear, Henry. Henry, it must have been an awfully hard day for you in Class A.
Sorry, it's just too noisy.
All right, well, let's just watch the action. between the car that leads Class A and the car that's just gone in front of it, and that's 34. And they're shown on the computer the non-organising body's lap score as both having done 225 laps, and therefore 34 going to the lead in Class A. But the organisers have, and that's in 18th and 19th place outright. However, the official results from the organisers say Mark Brame and Henry Draper, as of a little while ago, were in 16th place outright. And on 208 laps at that time, they had, by comparison with car 34, done one extra lap. It was on 207 and was...
On the knees the whole bit, have we got a big man? Right on the coast. And boy, oh boy, there's plenty of action.
Welcome back to Mount Panorama, and there is the race leader, car number 7, the Mazda RX-7, being driven by Gary Walden and Alan Jones. John Bow, this could be the car that gives Alan Jones his first ever Bathurst win.
Well, I certainly hope so. I know Alan's been coming here for a long time now, and I know he told me that his son Christian always says, "Why don't you win Bathurst, Dad?" So I think this is his big chance, and he's done a great job, as has Gary Walden and the whole Mazda operation. It's a tremendous effort against all odds, I feel, because I think the Porsche had the advantage in the braking area.
You were talking about Gary Walden earlier as being one of the most underrated drivers. He certainly is very, very fast, does most of the development work on the Mazda RX-7s, I believe, along with yourself.
Well, no, I don't do any work on them, but he works very closely with Barry Jones, and he does a lot of testing, and every time Gary's told me the car's better, it's been better, and he's just one of those guys, I think, that's over the years has been overlooked, and he's a terrific driver. He's just very smooth, easy on the car, and super quick at the same time, so he doesn't give you an impression of being going fast, but he is. He's sort of, I can liken it to Alain Prost in a different sort of area, I guess, because Prost never ever looks like he's trying to me, and he's always going faster than everyone else.
He's been racing Mazdas a long, long time, and in actual fact started racing in a Triumph TR7 in a car that he won. Car 5 is currently on your screen. The Porsche 968, currently running second outright, driven by John Smith, and of course Kevin Waldock from the Gold Coast. The Porsche 968 Club Sport, beautiful looking motor car.
Just had the stopwatch on Gary Walden and John Smith. It would appear as if the gap's narrowing down. Gary's probably doing the right thing and just saying, well, look, I've got half an hour left. Let's just drive the car no faster than I need to, get it to the finish in one piece. But then again, you never know. We'll keep the stopwatch on it, but at the moment there's a gap of 53.7 seconds on the last lap.
And about 20 minutes to run.
It's not a lot of time to pull that time back, but if Gary doesn't have a problem, he's only got to stand up to win.
It's about 7 to 8 laps remaining in this James Hardy 12-hour. It already has covered 255 laps. Last year, the record was 254, so we're 1 lap more than they achieved in 12 hours, 1 minute, 57.2 seconds in 1992. Third place is its teammate, Porsche Cars Australia 968 CS, $120,000 down-spec Porsche, so with much bigger wheels, wider, taller, 17-inch at the rear, lighter car too, and most importantly with massive brakes, and a very purpose-built and good tool for this sort of event. And as I say, Dick Johnson reckons that it was the car that on form, on its basic specification, the way it works, should win. And really that was almost what you were saying earlier, John Bow, that it had the equipment there in a very, very hard-run race. We've seen Mazda, perhaps just work a little bit harder at it, perhaps just have a little bit more race experience run their way.
Well, I thought before the race started that it would take an incredible team effort by the Mazda boys to get the victory from Porsche, but that's what they've provided. Everybody in the team has given 110%, and it's paid off, and they're a much sharper operation, much better car than last year. That's why they've travelled so much further than last year.
Charlie O'Brien, part of the winning combination with Gary Walden last year, paired with Greg Hansford this year, and in 4th place at this stage, and coming round to complete his 255th lap, as the 3 cars in front of him have already and also done.
Well, that's Greg, actually, in the car. He's in his 3rd hour, which is why he could be feeling the pinch a bit mentally, because the concentration, as I said before, is very hard work, particularly when there's a big speed differential between the cars.
And his margin has gone out to 10 laps over this dog-bone Honda. And if ever there was a dogged, determined effort, it was this one, starting off with the way Wayne Gardner tried to qualify it, perhaps even before that, when Ross Palmer of Palmer Tube Mills, an owner of an enormous international business turning over more than $200 million a year, decided to buy the car and go racing, something that nobody else had really done in this sort of racing with that car. And then he got hold of one of the best handlers in the business, Wayne Gardner, and then Wayne Gardner got hold of the car, and earlier this week in throwing it around Mount Panorama and trying desperately to steal pole position from cars that probably were better equipped to have pole position. He very nearly pulled it off, but instead of that, he inflicted an enormous amount of damage on the $167,000 motor car. But then the dogged effort continued with those TAFE students. And what a sensational, dedicated job they did. There were guys there that didn't sleep for 2 nights. And there were gals too. And it cost Ross Palmer a fortune. It cost the TAFE people an enormous amount of effort, of skill, and of dedication and commitment. And then the team took it over. They started to reassemble the car, and the drivers took it over from them, and they're lying 5th outright, and it's an amazing effort.
Well, Ross Palmer's a real enthusiast. Well, as you know, he supported Dick Johnson for many, many years, and he was telling me yesterday that it reminded him of the old days when Dick crashed the Green Falcon that the TAFE guys worked on it for 2 days as well.
Well, now 3 laps back is this Nissan Skyline GTR, car number 3 that Ken Douglas. Important news on some of the cars up front.
Keeping the stopwatch on, John Smith caught 7 seconds on that lap. The gap's now 46.3
So give us car numbers
seconds.
and positions.
Gary Walden is still leading on 256 laps. He's now 46.3 seconds ahead of John Smith in second in the Porsche, followed by Peter Fitzgerald 63 seconds behind the leader.
And 2 catching 1. This is the overall situation with a breathtaking 16 minutes still to come our way in a James Hardy 12 hour. There surely can't be a driver out there who's exhausted at this stage, who isn't wishing for this race to stop. But in fact, there's another 12 and a half minutes remaining. Torturous minutes that can be so difficult because one lapse of concentration could bring a massive effort to a grinding halt. There's 4th place Mazda number 1 in the hands of Charlie O'Brien and Greg Hansford. Greg Hansford in the car at the moment. And the 1st place car, the car leading the race, that's trying to make back-to-back victories with Walden driving, Gary Walden, the car that he shared with Alan Jones. And looking to me, John Bow, almost, no, they're letting the 7 car press on, but almost as though Alan Horsley would love to see them in formation finish across the finishing line.
I'm sure he would, Will, but I don't think he'd want to tempt fate like that when there's still nearly 10 minutes to go.
Yeah, that's a few laps too. It could be 3 or 4 laps yet. But over there with Tim Webster are 2 very, very nervous co-drivers. Charlie O'Brien, who won here last year, and whose car is lying 4th at this stage, and Kevin Waldock, whose car is lying in 2nd place. How do you gentlemen feel at this stage?
Yeah, Charlie, how are you feeling?
Well, not quite as nervous as last year. A few minutes ago, everyone's saying, "Hey, we won the race." No, we haven't won the race until the checkered flag drops.
That's right.
You can't discount anything in motor racing. If it's going to happen, it can happen on the last lap.
And Kevin, your car's made up a bit of time, but it's still, I think, about 45, 46 seconds behind. Bit tough.
It'd be very hard to make up that time unless something happens to the Mazdas now. But we're racing our 2nd car, which was Peter Fitzgerald, who into 3rd. We're actually holding about 12 seconds on him.
Mate, you wouldn't wish anything to happen to the Mazda, surely? You're a more charitable fellow than that?
Actually,
such a nice guy.
Yeah.
Actually, I'm philosophical about motor racing. We were in Sandown at the 500 there, and we were on the 2nd last lap, coming 3rd very comfortably, and we broke a vault and didn't finish, so anything can happen.
Well, we've mentioned this throughout the day, but are you guys both surprised that we've got 4 cars this close after 12 hours nearly?
I think so, yeah. It's amazing that separated by just minutes after 12 hours. This goes to show how reliable these cars are.
All right, let's see if we can grab a chat to Peter Fitzgerald. Peter, have you got us? I've got Kevin Waldock with me. Peter Fitzgerald, can you hear us in the car?
I've got a lot of interference.
How's it going, mate? We're all sitting here keeping an eye on you.
I don't think he's picking us up too well.
I really can't understand you.
No, it's okay, Pete. You stick to the task. I've got you.
Peter, could you actually slow down a little bit?
That was Charlie O'Brien, Peter.
He's trying to distract me, is he?
I think he might have been, yes. A little bit of gamesmanship, I think it's called. How you going, all right?
Yeah, mate, I'm a little disappointed, I suppose. I thought we'd take this out, but at this stage it's looking a bit grim.
Yeah, only 10 minutes or so to go now, and it takes some catching up to do.
Yeah, I'm a little worried, actually. My red light's come on for fuel.
Uh-oh.
How far behind me?
Second and third, Pete, for the Porsches isn't too bad. The people from Porsche are telling us that they've invited us to go over to the 24-hour race in Le Mans.
I beg your pardon?
We've been invited to go to Le Mans for the 24-hour race.
You're joking.
Yep, way to go.
Yeah, see you now. You cheered up now?
Peter, it's Charlie. If you have any vacancies, I am available that weekend.
Peter, it's been a great race. You sound a little disappointed, and that's only natural, but it really has been a super race today.
Yeah, it has. I mean, you know, just one little error, you know, from a back marker is really, well, it's cost a second spot for sure, but at least there are other cars there. And, you know, that's what happens. It's a 12-hour race, and I think you've got to take the good with the bad. And you know, the cars have run well all day, and the crew, I've got to pay tribute to them. They've been every bit as good as the Mazda blokes. And the drivers as well, you know. The whole package has been good. I just think they had too much legs on us.
Yeah, the Mazdas are a fabulous car.
Yeah, they are indeed. Well, I don't know whether this cheers you up, but you're going faster than last year. It seems the cars are going faster. More laps are being done than previous years.
Look at this idiot, Jesus.
Oh, I see. You even talk like that when you're on the mountain like you do on the road.
Sorry about that. I really shouldn't have said that, saying it's Easter Sunday.
No, it's all right. No, it's all right. You didn't use any expletives that we can't use on television on Easter Sunday.
Peter, it's Charlie O'Brien again. Do you think you actually got enough fuel to go to the finish?
I'm a little worried.
Will you stop it?
I think we got how many minutes to go?
Mate, looks like about 6.
I'll have to make it fast, won't I?
Oh, don't nurse it. We want to see you flying to the finish.
Yeah, well, we'll be there. Let's see if he see me in his mirrors.
Well, there you are, just going past one, Manuel Fangio the second. Thanks, Pete. Thanks for joining us.
Not a problem.
Good on you.
See you, Charlie.
Thank you, Kevin. And thank you, Charlie. It's been a great race for Mazda and for Porsche today. I mean, think of the public. They've had fun watching, I'm sure.
Well, anybody who hasn't enjoyed this race really doesn't enjoy any form of motorsport.
Yeah, no, it's been just fantastic.
I think for the Mazda to come here 2 years in a row to win back-to-back is a great effort for all the crew.
True, it certainly is,
particularly the crew that we have are all apprentices that work on normal everyone's car when they go for a service. So,
there's some great stories here this weekend. Those TAFE guys up the back, they're doing a wonderful job. It's just fantastic.
In you were in the drivers' conference for that time about the fellow from Perth.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
He kind of said if he's going bad, we'll tell everybody he's going bad.
Tell everyone he's going bad, exactly.
But that's very, very tough.
All right, let's, with a few minutes to go, see if we can get Juan Manuel Fangio back on the air with us. Juan, can you hear us? Juan Manuel Fangio, can you hear us? Tim Webster in the commentary box.
Yes, I can hear very good.
How are you going? You a bit tired?
Sorry, I didn't understand what you say.
I'm just saying you must be a bit tired by now. You've been in that car for a long time.
Yeah, I don't understand exactly what you say right now. Can you repeat me, please?
I'm just saying, Juan, you must be very tired now in the car.
No, I'm not. I'm used to the long races, so I feel very good. And also, if you have a good handling car, I mean, you don't get really tired during the race. So, and also, you know, I'm quite happy because everything was very smooth during the full race.
Well, just finally, congratulations. You and the car have done a wonderful job. It's been a great day for the MR2s.
Well, thank you very much. I would like also to say thank you to the full Toyota team. I mean, they did a wonderful job.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure to talk to you all day. Juan Manuel Fangio II in the Toyota MR2 as we take a look at the leading car and its partner. And there's the two green Visco Mazdas. Will Hagen, they've got it, I think.
55 cars started the race last year, 39 finished. 53 started the race this year, and a higher proportion will finish. I'm not quite sure of the number that are on the list here are still running, but I'm pretty sure it's higher than the 39 last year. And heading them all in a tremendous organisational effort, because I see that as being the essence of this win for Mazda. It's been one that's had to take planning and so on. It was not a matter of taking a car and throwing some drivers and turning up at the track. It took an enormous amount of race planning and strategy and thinking and meetings with drivers and rehearsing pit crews and so on by Alan Horsley, who'd worked years ago with Alan Moffat with his race team with the RX-7 Mazda. And as I say, all of that, every bit of that was necessary for this victory to be put in place at the end of what has been an enthralling, hard-fought, give-away nothing 12 hours. John Bowe, is that overstating the case?
No, that's absolutely spot on, Will. It's a magnificent effort by everybody in the team. You just couldn't speak highly enough of all of them, and they all work so well together. There's no bitching and no backbiting. It really is a good effort, and I take my hat off to them.
But you know, sometimes you've got to just literally turn up with the machinery, and the machinery's good enough if you've got a good enough driver to drive it and to win. And that was not the case here, was it?
Well, I think the car...
It had to be engineered. I mean, the car was
good enough to win, of course, but it wasn't that easy. It wasn't like last year when the Mazda had a 5 or 6 second gap on the second fastest car in the race. In this race, the Mazda actually wasn't the fastest car on the circuit, and it's taken a lot of slick pit work, very good efforts by the drivers, and a lot of very good strategy from Alan Horsley and Gary Jones.
And coming up onto the Subaru Turbo, the RS of Gary Rogers, that's currently lying in 37th place. It qualified very well.
Had a gearbox change about an hour ago.
Yeah, qualified in 9th place. At one of 8 different cars in the top 10 in qualifying.
The gap from first to second is now down to 41.6 seconds, so John Smith obviously is still trying, but and Gary Walton's obviously still trying as well. But this will be the last lap, or last lap but one, and Gary's just getting it round to the finish. I think I can see a formation finish coming up here, actually.
I think so, Ken. I must mention here that the Dunlop tyres on the Mazdas, they are so good that they were recycling them. They were taking them off and putting them back on the next car when they stopped, because they were just showing negligible wear. So it's a great effort by Dunlop as well.
The computer, incidentally, is showing, and this should be the last lap, is showing that the Class A leaders swapped to the advantage of Toyota Corolla number 34 ahead of the Suzuki Swift, Mark Brayman Draper, and car number 56. But this is the run to the finishing line, surely. About another 5.5 kilometres remaining. 262 laps completed so far, to compare with last year's 254. So we believe it is the last lap. So this climb up the mountain is the last time uphill for these guys, except for the roller coaster of Conrod Straight. 263 laps should be the race winning distance at 1,634 kilometres, and that works out to an average speed as they cross the finishing line of 136 kilometres an hour. Last year they averaged 131.1 kilometres an hour. They've raised the average by 5 kilometres an hour for every hour of the race. And over there with Tim Webster, how's the Mazda team?
Well, Charlie O'Brien's looking pretty intent on watching the screen, but I think he's a pretty happy man for the Mazda team. A winner last year and coming fourth this year. I mean, it's pretty credible performance, Charlie.
It is, Tim. The whole thing is a team effort, and for Mazda to win again this year, I think it's a great effort for Alan Horsley to put it all together. So I'm very happy for him. Obviously, it would be nice to be a little further up in front of the Porsches, but well, it's next year, so we'll be back.
All right, well, here they come.
And I think part of the success was a chef over there looking after the team called Nick Ott, and that's what these cars ultimately did, or Car 7. And he did a tremendous job. He kept everybody really happy. But Car 7 heading to the finishing line now to complete 263 laps, 1,600 odd kilometres around Mount Panorama, Bathurst, to take a second glorious victory in this third James Hardy 12-hour for series production cars. And it is a great effort indeed. The drivers, Gary Walden, and Alan Jones. John Bow in the commentary box instead of being in there in the car. But a tremendous effort and well backed up into fourth place by car 1, Charlie O'Brien, Greg Hansford, and the second placed car now coming towards the finishing line, the Porsche 968 CS. Victorious at Sandown, or the other car was number 4, and car 5 across the finishing line to take second place. And that for John Smith, Kevin Waldock and Jeff Morgan. And there's Alan Horsley and Barry Jones and the guys that really did it for Mazda. And Ian Campbell with them.
Alan Horsley, a heads-up challenge with Porsche today, and it's the BP Mazda team that's come out on top.
Yeah, I don't believe it. I really don't. I didn't think those cars would stand up to that punishment all day.
And if everything go to plan, are you happy with this?
Yeah, we're happy. We're happy, but yeah, it went pretty well to plan, except for that early stop and the horse walking on the track. But apart from that, everything went to plan.
So it's Porsche 1, Mazda 1, and the next one to make it what?
Well, I think Bathurst is the one. That's the one we were after.
Alan Horsley very happy on pit lane. Back up the commentary.
And the important thing about that win is that the Porsche 968 was a new, better car this year, but the Mazda came back, went much faster with last year's car, indeed the very cars, but an unchanged model as well, and came home victors again, and that is a remarkable achievement. We'll be back to Mount Panorama shortly.
Welcome back to Mount Panorama, and that's the scene as they all gather in the presentation area to be sprayed with champagne, which is a bit of a ritual that I can't quite work out, but I guess it's part of the whole business. It's been a great day. The sun is starting to set now on Mount Panorama at Bathurst, and a sensational win to the Mazda team of Alan Jones and Gary Walden in the RX-7, and I think John Smales is ready down in the presentation area to give these boys what they justly deserve. John?
They do indeed, Jim. Ladies and gentlemen, will you please welcome to this most famous of motor racing balconies in Australia, the winners of the James Hardy 12-hour for 1993, Gary Walden and Alan Jones. Fellas, welcome, and to present you with your trophy, the James Hardy 12-hour trophy, as Barry Jones joins us on the balcony, the team manager, the chairman of James Hardy Industries, Mr. John Reed.
Great drivers, great cars. Well done.
Thank you very much, John. I'd like to thank the BP Mazda team, all of the crew. Firstly, I'd like to thank Alan Horsley and Barry Jones, who prepares the cars. It's a great team. Thanks very much to BP for sponsoring us. The oils are fantastic. And I'd just like to thank all the crew, Alan especially. I've been fortunate enough to have quite a few very good co-drivers in the last 12 months. And Alan's fantastic. And I'd like to, probably while I'm here, say a special thank you to my wife. Thank you very much.
Gary, before you leave and before we bring Jonesy up, your second victory in succession. Congratulations, Gary. Second victory in a row, Gary.
Yeah, I'm very pleased, but I think I'm more pleased for Mazda and the team.
How did you feel this morning when 3 laps into the event, the turbocharger hose came off and left you stranded?
I couldn't believe it, John. I couldn't believe it. I thought we were really going to fire off in the morning and really try and put some distance between us and the rest of the field, but you know, it wasn't to be, so we had to work very hard all day.
Gary, what happens to you now? You're a part-time driver, really, aren't you? You don't get the Group A drives, so even more sensational that he's won the way he has, given the amount of miles he's got under his belt. Gary, what happens to you now?
Ask Alan Horsley.
Let's get Jonesy in here. 1980 world champion, has always wanted to be on this balcony. Alan, congratulations.
Thanks very much. John just asked him what he was going to do. Where does he go from now? Well, I tell you what, I wouldn't mind having him next to me in the Falcon for the 1,000. You do worse than have him in the Falcon for the 1,000. He is a fantastic driver.
Alan, is that an offer?
Well, it's not my offer. Unfortunately, I have to talk to Glenn, but I'd love to have him.
Jonesy, since 1981, when you came back, you've been up here trying to win a Bathurst race. How does it feel finally to stand on this balcony in #1 position?
Oh, it feels fantastic, and obviously I'd just like to reiterate what Gary said. I'd like to thank the BP Visco people and BP Team Mazda for supplying me with the car and the crew, and especially the crew. You know, they've done a fabulous job and they've worked unbelievable. We were doing 22-second pit stops, which is unreal in a production car pit stop, and they're fantastic, and I thank them very much.
Alan, I also know that there's one young man up in Townsville at the moment in a go-kart race who just wanted his dad more than anything else to be on this balcony.
Yeah, well, we might have good news for each other tonight on the phone. He's up racing go-karts in Townsville, so who knows? We refer, of course, to Alan's 14-year-old son, Christian, who's following in the champion's footsteps and going go-kart racing as a means, finally, to get into Formula Ford and maybe Formula 1, Alan? Yeah, well, I hope so. You know, whatever he does, I just hope that he's successful at it. I'm not going to push him either way, but as long as he's enjoying himself.
Let's get the other Jones boy up here, Barry Jones, the man who put the team together. Barry, congratulations. You've done it for the second year in a row.
That's right. It's unbelievable. I mean, I came here as a driver for years and I couldn't do it. And I've done it 2 years as a pit manager. I'm wrapped. And I've had the best drivers. And mind you, Alan Jones and I won a Mazda race, I think the first long-distance race for Mazda 10 years ago. So here we are again as a combination with Mazda and loving it.
Well, there's a really controlled crowd under here today who love the idea of these high-tech cars winning. Really pleased to see you folks, and it's about time you got the bath. So, fellas, the champagne ready to go, the trophy held aloft. Let's give them the victory cheer.
Well, I have to tell you, that's something I've never been quite able to work out, why they take a bath in a beautiful bottle of champagne like that. But there's Jonesy and Gary Walden enjoying the moment, as well they should. Will Hagan has joined me. The laps are getting longer, the times are getting faster. When will the cars outgrow the mountain?
They just have to work harder to do it, don't they?
Yeah.
This is the amazing thing, that they took on a fresh car with last year's car, an unchanged model. They went very much faster and they pulled it off again, and that was all about thinking and strategy and planning and dedication. Some very good drivers too, and of course good machinery, but gave us an enthralling race, didn't it? I mean, a tremendous motor race that went on almost the entire 12 hours. Nobody could get away from anybody else, so they just had to go on racing and battling.
Yeah, within a few seconds of each other at the end of 12 hours. I mean,
fantastic.
40 or 50 seconds.
As I say, last year's race, I reckon, early in the race, was one of the best races I'd ever seen here. This one was so much better. So what more do we need? And I think next year will be better, I honestly do.
All right, we'll look forward to that too. Thank you, Will Hagan. And all we can say to our viewers at home is we really hope that you enjoyed it. On behalf of all of our commentators, all of our crew who work so very hard here, this is Tim Webster saying goodbye to you from Mount Panorama at Bathurst. We hope to see you next year for the James Hardy 12-hour endurance race.
Stay on 10 for healthy, wealthy and wise. Tomorrow night at 8:30, Colombo unwittingly becomes part of a deranged woman's diabolical plot to destroy the two men she believes responsible for her husband's death. The super sleuth will need to be at his best to solve this one. Colombo, Murder and Mystery, tomorrow night at 8:30.
The James Hardy 12-hour was proudly brought to you by James Hardy Industries in association with Palmer Tube Mills, Bridgestone, that's confidence, Castrol Liquid Engineering, Telecom Mobile Net, Australia's own, Windsor Smith Boots, and BP Visco.